Y'all doing all right?
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
Okay, we're live.
We live? 6 o'clock, or
Yep.
4:30.
6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock somewhere. All right. Well, we can call this meeting to order, announce that all the aldermen are present. Mr. Rob Blackman is not. He couldn't get back from work today, so he will catch up with us after this meeting. This meeting will be a work session only. No official action will be taken, and this is strictly a work session amongst the aldermen, the staff, and we've taken information from the public, and I think it was all emailed to you today to review. So we're going to move forward with that. The object of the meeting will be all the matters pertaining to the floodway ordinance, and with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Darrell Stringfellow if he will kind of give us a whole brief of how we got to where we are, issues concerning doing anything, and possible ways of moving forward.
Well, we basically got here, we have someone like the floodway, which we know the city, when we adopted our ordinance, that was one of the things we done to help with our CRS points, was we actually tried to forbid building in a floodway. The reason we did that is right now we're 8, we're maintaining a 10% discount on our flood insurance, which affects, we know of at least 891 residents that's possibly in floodways that have insurance. No way to get an accurate, but that's the number of letters we mail out each year for flood information. Based off, we actually track down everyone by our base flood map. We've got their addresses. The city's last 5-year cycle visit prior to the one that we have now was back in 2019. The city had a rating of 6 at that time, and which they ended up dropping to an 8 at that point. We went back and tried, and that was before my time, but I went back and tried to figure out what was done that prevented them from maintaining at least a 7, which I found out other jurisdictions also that year had dropped multiple points also. We had only done one thing different, and that was we changed up our regulatory standards, tried to, actually make it. That was one of the reasons we went back and done the floodway, hoping that we could at least get back to a 7 when we done our cycle this last year in 24, 5-year cycle. We adopted the map in 20 was when we went and put that in there, because we took something out that was the regulatory standards that we took out. Basically, just to be, this is not a me ordinance. It's just an ordinance that I put together, recommended to vote. It was strictly put together to try to maintain the CRS ratings. We got the only options you have, and I'm just gonna lay it out there. You can either do away and go back to the regular standards as allowed by FEMA. You can only go to that standard, not less than, which would be allowing building in a floodway with a notice right certification. That would apply to addition barns. Anything you do in there would have to meet that requirement. Then that would actually, do what you're trying to achieve, I guess, is that. I keep getting asked the question, how is this going to affect us? I don't know. There is no way to know. The only way we're going to know this is once you do it, we send that information in. It may not affect us within the next year. It's possible that it won't affect us until February of 2027 is when they may catch it, when we send it in for research or with our cycle visit that year, or recertification rather. Like I say there again, I've reached out to the CRS coordinator that has actually helped us to try to get some clarity on it. With the funding cuts and everything that the federal government's put down, they're not even doing a recertification visit this year. The only thing they're asking us to send in is changes to our ordinance, which we haven't had any changes, so there's nothing to send in as of now. And that goes to February the 1st of this year, so even if we change this, we're not gonna make that in February cutoff. So basically, this will go into, be sent in February of 2027 at that time. There again, if I got any other questions, I would ask that, either way it goes, like I say, the standards of building there is still gonna be affected regardless. We still gotta make them do the no rise if we drop the coastal way, or if we drop the floodway and allow them to build there.
Right. If you don't mind, we'll go back to questions, but I'd like to go and let Julie address, this is mainly in her ward, and the issues have been brought forth. So I'd like to see if Julie would like to go ahead and address all of us, and then we can go around the table and get our questions in and see.
Thank you, Mayor. So just kind of to recap, this stems from a resident that had previously permitted in the county to build a home on Trout Street specifically, and that was denied through the city due to the standards that we have, and even with a no-rise certificate. So it was said, well, you would need to obtain a variance, and so they went through the route for that, but that was tabled, so it came to us. And so throughout all this, I was made aware that they are definitely not the only home or persons in that area. There are 30 plus, families or lots or people that would be affected, in the sense that if over 50% of their home were damaged, they would not be able to build back in that area. That's a floodway. They would have to utilize another portion of their property, if that's even an option. And for some persons, their entire lot is within the floodway, so they would likely not be able to build their home back. To me, that's pretty catastrophic, and totally devalues their property. And while that instance may not be, a ton of people, for that one person, even if it were one, which I believe it's more than that, for that one person, that's everything. I think it would only be fair to put ourselves in their shoes and say, how would I feel if I were in that situation? And the annexation, prior to that, this was not an issue. They didn't ask to be annexed. And my job is to advocate for them, so that's why we're here, to find a solution, to make it possible that they can build on their property as is only right. And from some research and hearing from other people, there are other options to even, so dropping the CRS program altogether, or increasing the rates with that is not the only option. We can get that through other means. There are other ways to get points there, that because I've heard a lot of pushback that, well, I don't want my flood insurance rates to rise. I totally get that. In the next area, we didn't want our taxes to rise, and they did. I get it. You don't want that, so I wouldn't wish that on someone else. So I think there are other solutions that you don't necessarily even have to do that we can make both sides happy and be fair across the board. And doing some research, there are other things that may improve our rating that we could kind of change out for this one, way to get points. Insofar as using freeboard to elevate structures above the predicated floodwaters, requiring a foundation building certification can get you up to 500 points. So what are the points that the no building in the floodway, how many points do we get for that?
There's no way to really know for sure. That's what I say. That's an unasked question, because it could fall under two different ones. It could fall under a 420 open space, because with us forbidding them to build there, it actually opens up as open space. So I don't know, they may have counted that. It falls under the higher regulatory standards, because we're meeting a higher regulatory standard, which is 430, because of the fact that we're not allowing to build in the floodway. The way this actually operates, and that's the reason there's so many questions that you can't answer is this all started like January of last year with our certification we just got done doing. We finished it September of last year, our recertification to maintain an 8. We actually get sent all the information that they're gonna do our 5-year certification. We worked on that all for like 8 months. We pulled every document. We took the manual, the CRS manual, which is where you're getting this information. Anything that we thought would apply, we pulled it. We took the last recertification deal they had and tried to find stuff that wasn't submitted at that time, because some of it was repeated stuff that we resubmitted. But we tried to go further and pull more, such as maintenance on ditches. We contacted, we got records on where they put work orders in to maintain ditches, prevents flooding. Stormwater program, things we had there. Been making people build 12 inches above grade for foundation, having that on plans to where that's a requirement. The type of things we actually did. We've got everything we could out of it. The only thing that we left on the table was levees and dams. We don't have them. There was no way to get them.
Is there a way to get a report of everything we have submitted as
I'll get you a report of what we turned in.
so what we actually have kind of checked the box on? Because, it looks like we could very well get interchange, that so that these people could build there and interchange points to even possibly get a better point system even than what we might have now, that utility and mechanical elevation above base flood elevation and freeboard. It looks like, you get 20 to 40 points there, and just, accumulating these little things. And
Which we have the freeboard.
is it,
And we can
So
go
what's the-
every-
what's-
We can go higher freeboard.
Base flood,
yes, so,
base flood plus 1.5.
We're 1.5, but you can go to 2,
Inches.
3 feet if you
Yeah.
want to.
So minimal is BFE, and then we can go 18 inches or higher.
so I mean, that's something that I would be interested
Now,
in.
let's
looking
back
into,
up
raise
and
that,
let's
so
look at
it's
hardship, okay? So here we go. I had a couple that, and this is gonna reflect how Freeport also hurts people. We have a couple that come into the office last Friday. Their house is 16 feet, their base flood elevation is 16 feet. They meet FEMA requirements. Technically, they could do whatever they want with that house according to FEMA. They wanted to do an addition and a renovation of $150,000. It exceeded 50% of the value of the house. The only way they could do that evaluation was to bring the house up 17.5 feet to meet the entire structure, yes. So I guess where I'm going with that, even if you increase in freeboards, you take somebody that built a house last year that met the 18 inches, you go even higher, now their house is non-compliant. So if something were to happen to their house, then they would have to meet the new regular. I guess what I'm saying is this, regardless of how you do it, there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna get hurt by trying to achieve everything
Yeah, I
that
can
you're
see
trying
that.
to achieve. Now, we're not gonna get out of the program. We can take a 10, get no discounts. We still in the program. We still have to comply with certain criteria. It's actually easier because you don't have to do any paperwork. But you're not gonna be put out of the program. Only be put out of the program is if we committed a violation and with intentions and not figure out a way to resolve it. That will get you out of the program.
I feel like even if that were to happen, it would be less damages to less persons than some of these people that would not be able to build their house back at all on the property. And that's a huge loss.
Yeah, well, and there again, there's a lot of information out there floating around that's not all accurate.
Do we not have anyone in that situation from your assessments?
As in not being able to build a house
Correct,
back.
that their entire property is not in the floodway?
No, well, you look at hardship, that was the deal with hardship. That's why there's actually variances. There are hardships. Now, I can't help them on an addition if they want to build an addition. But you have people that just, for example, the one we just talked about, is just in an AE zone. They still can't do the addition because their house is, and by our standards, below flood. So I guess what I'm saying, even in a floodway, you couldn't do an addition, but just say your house did burn. if you could strike off the points of what is actually considered a variance, then you could actually, at that point, go back with what you had there and probably meet the flood elevation requirements. There again, that would have to be turned in, and that would be determined by FEMA as to whether it was acceptable or not, if they considered it variance, but if it checked off all the checklists. But if you take the checklist, one of the things on the variance checklist now is if there's an option to be able to move that house forward and get it out of the floodway, that is an option that they have to take, because that is actually in the hardship deal.
I feel like the interpretation for what's a hardship is kind of ambiguous, and then you're at the mercy of various people. What may apply here, you get a different group, and they may feel differently, and then watching, our first case here recently,
Yeah.
I mean, it was tabled, they couldn't come to a determination.
Yeah, I know, but-
And so that doesn't really reassure me that in the future, that's gonna be a promising possibility.
Well, there again, like I say, cut and dry, I feel like if that variance would've got passed, we'd be dropping the floodway. Because we would've had to have dropped it to get out of the trouble we was probably gonna get in. I'm just gonna be honest, just because of the fact that there was two points that I've seen on there that struck it as a variance, as being eligible. Due to the fact that they could move forward and get them out of it,
That
so.
does limit their use of their property and dictate how they should use their property.
I'm actually, like I say, this is not a me thing, it has no effect on me, I strictly done the ordinance, bring it to the board, they vote. And I'm just here now to advise that unless we drop the floodway, that's the only way to fix it. I can't make the decision to drop it, I'm just here to answer questions, tell you I'm the floodplain person. Is it gonna bother me? No, I don't, it's not. I didn't write it with intentions to hurt anyone. I just know that,
I don't
you
think-
know,
I mean, and actually, I don't know, Mr. Harris, are you aware if this was addressed in the annexation paperwork, and legally, was this looked at prior to? Is this something that they were aware of, or?
Chad Mask was the lawyer in Jackson, who's the annexation lawyer who handled the annexation. I didn't see anything where this was a specific consideration inside the annex in the court pleadings. I can certainly get in touch with Mr. Mask and ask him, hey, what did y'all think about the floodway ordinance and its application to the annex area? But I personally don't know. I just didn't see a specific carve out or addressing of the floodway ordinance when the annexation, when they do the court paperwork.
I think I can help you with part of what I think you're going, because I tried it myself to try to help these people. When the county come in and done when the city came in and annexed, they had a certain period of time they had to stay under the ordinance of the county. I actually contacted MEMA, our district person, to ask that, because I thought that was a way out, was that I had to follow the city or the county's regulations until that year that we had to do that. We actually took the ordinance, he opened it, looked at it, and when we adopted this, because of some of the mapping is done through the county, it's listed as Jackson County, even though we're the incorporated areas and unincorporated areas. By adopting the 28059C, we left ourselves to where every time we took in a map, we didn't have to go back and re-adopt the ordinance. We pretty much done it up front when we adopted the ordinance. So that killed the actually being able to, had we not adopted that panel at the time we adopted our ordinance that covers that area, then we would have went back to the county's ordinance and had to follow their regulations until we got that map adopted.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not following you correctly. So at the time of the annexation, you're saying that it brought everything of the cities into play and nothing would be accepted from county approval? Am I following you right?
When we annexed that area, anything to do flood-wise was an immediate, you immediately had to follow. The zoning, not. That's totally different. Because it's not even regulated. The zoning's not even regulated by a government agency other than the city themselves. In other words, the federal government doesn't care or anything about your zoning ordinance, I guess one ordinance. But yeah, that was one of the loops I tried to help them, was to see if that was the case with the flood ordinance, and it was not. That we had to follow our flood ordinance. Now, had the house been started in Jackson County, or, or a house had been started, and we did that, we left them with the county all the way to the end. If it was, even if they had started, the permit had been issued to the county, it was in the process of being started.
Right.
We left it with them so that things like this wouldn't happen. That way the county, not to mention it would have been more difficult to try to take up where the county left off on the inspections and then make sure that the person got the correct CO to help them. So unless it was something that was not permitted, they stayed in the county. So that was the other thing, if this had stayed in the county, had got started, stayed in the county, we wouldn't be having this conversation either.
So how does it affect, so for these homes, let's just say the one, for example, that's completely in the floodway, do they grandfather that in, or does that not ding us because there is a home of default there that, or do they just say, well, we give you a freebie because, you were okay before, how does that work?
You're talking about a house that's already in there, and if something happens to that house.
No, not, I mean, just right now, so it's not built in the way that, it wouldn't be allowed to be built there, but there is one, so does that not count at this time?
It doesn't hurt anything, because that house is there. That's what I'm trying to say, that if you look at the freeboard, it works the same way. Your house could be below, according to our freeboard, but you're still grandfathered in. It only affects you if you receive 50% of damage or more, or if you go in there and want to add an addition or something along that line. That's the only time. As long as that house is there, it doesn't have any effect on it, as far as that goes.
I would like to look into other things that we can utilize to improve our CRS rating that would not include this. There have to be options, but I'd have to see, like from you, where we're at, and I think we owe it to these persons to look into that.
And that will take effect when they do it next 5 years. So you have
Anything is a positive.
Yeah. I'm just saying that would be something we would have to look at in 2029 when we do our next 5 years. But if you found something that I missed, I'd be glad to work with you, because we did everything. And that's what I say, I don't know if I said that. They actually, it's kind of like you doing your taxes if you own a business. You have somebody comes in and actually assists you. That's the way this worked with this. They actually had a lady to come in, Stephanie from Louisiana. She works for a third-party company that does the CRS stuff. They actually sent us what they are looking for us to have. We pull everything to try to meet all of that. They actually sat there and she went through everything we had. She even looked for other ideas and had ideas of if we can do this. Anything that she had an idea of that we could actually pull out, we tried to do it. We even accumulated more green space than what we thought we had, because someone had remembered that some of it had been acquired that was in a floodway or in a flood zone. So yeah, I mean, we went over it well.
And with the annexation, I know we've got to have more green space now that we've.
Well, even buying the floodway helps count the green space, because it's forbidden area to build in.
And I mean, like this, the freeboard increasing that, just every little bit, even to help that. And there's that word that it may increase, so there's not a definitive it will. And I understand you don't need to get there, but it may, or then you can figure it, but not that.
So,
We have a couple things that were requested to be put into the minutes. One was an email by Alderman Blackman, and just passed it out to y'all. And then there's another by Mr. Lannis Noble that requested me to have this also for y'all. It was emailed to you earlier. Y'all would like, I'll read through it. Is that okay? Just to go over. In light of the announced floodway work session scheduled for Friday, January 16th, I respectfully submit the following materials for your consideration. Exhibit A, as shown in this exhibit, there does not appear to be a consistent standard for placement of the floodway boundary in multiple instances. The boundary extends the same distance onto high, dry land as it does into significant lower marshland. That was something that was discussed earlier, I believe, possibly having them come back and re-evaluate the boundaries. I think that's something that could be something to look at. Exhibit B, this exhibit shows the floodway extending onto our property at an elevation of approximately 6 feet, virtually the same distance as on the opposite side of the bayou, where elevations range from 0 to 2 feet. Exhibit 3, FEMA guidelines state that there should be no structure allowed that would cause a rise in flood discharge of more than 1 foot. Given the vast extent of marshland to the north, it is clear that it would require a major structure to cause any cumulatively rise in water surface elevation affecting the recently annexed area. Exhibit D, this exhibit shows an area adjoining my property that is controlled by the Nature Conservancy. This is one of many properties within the contiguous to the floodway that are covered with timber and dense undergrowth. Taking into account the negative impact current regulations have on more than 40 properties, as well as the observation of the tax assessor's office that this situation does not make sense and would likely require the reassessment of all affected properties. I urge the mayor and the board of aldermen to take remedial action. One possible solution would be to revise the description of the annexed areas from the center line of the bayou to the southern boundary of the Fort Bayou floodway. A second option would be to require the removal of trees and dense undergrowth from floodway areas controlled by the Nature Conservancy. This would more than offset any structures on annexed properties. Another solution as provided in FEMA guidelines would be to accept a no-rise certification from a licensed engineer. Thank you. If y'all want, I did get a copy of the exhibits. Y'all can look at it if you want to pass them around.
I got the email.
The other is that was just sent in through email. This was sent to Alderman Blackman. This is to inform you that I am very much against changing ordinances and having our flood insurance go up. It's hard enough around here with insurance rates on homeowners. If flood goes up as well, we're going to have a lot of vacant homes. Ocean Springs Board of Aldermen will be holding a workshop on Friday, January 16th, as discussed during our regular Board of Aldermen meeting held on January 6th to review and discuss these proposed ordinance changes. The current discussion regarding proposed changes to the city's flood damage prevention ordinance is being initiated in response to a request to allow development within a designated regulatory floodway. The city currently participates in the National Flood Insurance Program and the Community Rating System administered by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. These programs require that local floodplain management regulations meet or exceed minimum federal standards, particularly with respect to floodway encroachments. Allowing construction or encroachments within a regulatory floodway or amending the ordinance in a manner that weakens existing floodway protections may place the city at risk of CRS point reduction, CRS class regression, or potential non-compliance under NFIP requirements. Any negative change in the city's CRS classification would result in increased flood insurance premiums for policyholders within the city limits, with potential increases estimated in 5% to 10% range, depending on the extent of the CRS impact. These increases would apply broadly to insured property owners and not solely to the project prompting the ordinance change. Citizens are encouraged to email or call their alderman to express the importance of maintaining the current flood ordinance and avoiding amendments that could negatively impact the city's floodplain management standing and insurance rates. And that was the two that I received today. So just moving forward, just to get something to think about. But I do like the thought of potentially getting them to come reevaluate the line.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. I don't know if y'all are aware of it, but FEMA, over the next 5-6 years, each year, the rating premium is going to be going up. Everybody's got a credit right now And so this is going to be impacting. So the way of looking at possibly moving the floodway in these areas, looking at on the FEMA flood map and everything, it's the parcel where Mr. Noble all the way up. I feel like the floodway was stretched out quite a bit wider in that area than the rest of Fort Bayou Basin. I think that would warrant a question to FEMA to say, hey, can we have this reevaluated and pull the floodway back into true bounds, is what I'm thinking. I talked to an insurance agent here that deals with FEMA all the time and kind of explained to them what was going on. And these were the suggestions that she had on it, was look at redoing it, because affecting the rating increase could possibly go across the board with every resident that has flood insurance in Ocean Springs. And it could be 10% or higher. So that's really kind of the unknown that Daryl has expressed that he doesn't know, but she kind of confirmed on one hand, looking at what county standards are, what Ocean Springs standards are, because she deals with all policies across the board. So those are some of my feelings on it. I think it's something that we need to get the ball rolling on. Messing with the BFE to make it a higher standard on that, I'm not really in favor for that. I don't know if you're wanting to make it higher than what the base elevation is. FEMA already has it saying if it's 16, it's 16. We say 18 inches, a foot and a half above BFE. So I think we just need to leave that one alone. But
What's your rationale for not being in favor?
because that's going to affect a lot of other people that are already built. And if FEMA goes back and looks at that, saying if a house, one house, like this area we're talking about, and BFE is 12. You go down the bayou, you go 16. You go down the bayou, you goes 18. You go down the bayou even further, it gets higher than that. And I think leaving it at the foot and a half, most people, when they're building a home, talking to people, they build above the 18. They go ahead and push it above 3 feet, 4 feet, just because
You get better rates?
you get a better rate with FEMA, and the cost is not that much more just to have if they're up on piers and stuff. So I think that if we had some way that we could allow the no-rise certificate in, it's just, the problem is we have to do totally away with one thing to allow the no-rise within that. So I'm in favor for looking at if we can get the boundaries re-looked at, moved, because I do honestly feel we have enough grounds on that whole area that they took a wide path on there. And that might be because the conservative property across the way, they just said, nobody's going to ever build there, so we're just going to do a wide path through here.
So what is the floodway? What determines the floodway?
It's basically what they consider a river channel that actually has rushing water in it instead of just rising and falling. It's actually rushing current. Basically like you basically building.
Is it based off of the height? Or is it based off of what's in its path?
They do a 10-year, a 50-year, a 100-year, a 500-year flood analysis on those areas. And they basically, that's how they come up with this area, saying at a 500-year flood, this area is going to crest and it's going to take that whole area in.
And that's more considered a floodway.
That's more of it.
Why would anybody want to build in a floodway if it's a higher chance that it's going to get flooded?
Well, that's what they're trying to prevent people from doing, is because of the fact it brings stuff down that can actually, in their opinion, like a battling ram where it could actually bump the structure, destroy the structure in that way, or hang up under it to where it causes the water to actually have enough force to push the structure. And back to what he was saying, though, if you look at the way it was done, really, it was kind of like we all got done dirty, because you took the worst disaster ever known to mankind at the time, the worst event possible, and they come down here and they totally remapped everything. So you you may not ever see that again, and I don't know if that's how they determined the floodway, was by where the water, or where, how high the bayou got, how far out it got, all, I don't know what they did, how they done the study.
I mean, to be fair, I think you'd say, why would somebody want to build on Front Beach? You know, the hurricane comes, their house will be demolished. Or why would you want to live here because hurricanes come?
Pay the price, live in paradise. I mean,
And this handout kind of goes over just some options to possibly, like I discussed previously, improve our CRS ratings and recommendations, and just kind of reviewing what we've got.
I'm in agreement with that, because if we can get more points, because ultimately FEMA's gonna go up on us regardless, rating or not, so those, this credit that we have right now that's stretched out over a period of time is eventually gonna go away, and people that are paying $2,000 are eventually gonna be paying $4,000. That's FEMA's ultimate goal is, so.
It's gonna be across the board.
Yeah, that's anywhere, well, it's the city, county, anywhere it is, that's just FEMA. Florida's already going through that. When hurricanes went in down by Fort Myers, all the way up, they went through FEMA, and they just started striking out, and the rates are a lot higher there than we are in here in Mississippi. We're eventually gonna catch up to it. So, we need to be proactive, like what you're saying, is look at all areas that we could get ratings on, and so.
there
You're-
again, just heads up, that's a 2029 recertification project. So basically what you have to do now is between now and 2029, figure out how you want to handle the issue we have. And that's, again, there's every way that I can see it around, the only option you have is you're going to end up having to decide whether you're going to just do away with the cutoff, no building in a floodway. I don't think there's any other thing you can do, unless you could get it remapped by letter of map amendment or whatever, have them come down and make that area a priority to actually remap. Based off the fact that maybe they got carried away due to it just being a Katrina disaster. They got carried away with the boundaries.
Is that something you can request on our behalf
That's
from
something y'all
FEMA?
would have to request through the state level and try to get to the federal level, which Mike Ezell, it was my understanding, was already in the process of trying to get something done, because he himself knows, being from the coast and everything, that, hey, they're killing us with insurance down
So one
here.
of us aldermen would need.
I would reach out to someone at the state.
That was actually discussed in
Have more.
Jackson. We had that discussion in one of the legislative meetings.
What was the outcome?
Well, it was just the conversation that Mike Ezell was trying to get remapping, so we'll follow up with that.
And then maybe some of the citizens may want to actually reach out, send him letters, emails, whatever they have to do to try to get behind it. Yes, and try to get it pushed to where they try to come back and look at this thing.
What kind of new constructions are being built out that way from previous? That's in the process, that was when we took over?
This is the only one that we've had since we took over that's actually building in the floodway. We've got a lot of new structures going out that way,
Yeah.
but this was the only one that actually hit the floodway.
Yeah.
So Daryl, I heard you say that we've got 837 homes that are in the floodway right now?
No, there's 891 residents that we know of that actually we're mailing letters to that probably have flood insurance.
That are just,
That we know of. Now, there's a lot of people that probably carry flood insurance that are outside of the flood zone. They probably don't have to carry it, but a lot of them will carry it like if there's a ditch behind them that they're scared is gonna back up along. So there's a lot of people that have actual flood insurance that probably don't have to have it, but as a safety guard, they keep it. So
Now,
it
if you're-
affects that too.
okay, now if you're in the floodway, can you build there and not have flood insurance, or you can't build there because of FEMA guidelines?
The insurance part doesn't have anything to do with us I can't make anyone or I don't make anyone. It's not a requirement that you have to have flood insurance. That's between you and your lien holder on whether or not you got to have flood insurance. Now, you have a lot of people, and I've had this happen to where they don't want to build to the flood standards, and they say, well, that's fine, I'm not going to have flood insurance. Well, sorry, that doesn't
You still have to
work.
build.
We still
FEMA
required to
guidelines.
make you build to not FEMA guidelines, the city's guidelines. Because we adopted a more stringent plan than FEMA.
Okay. Because I've heard people talk about it, well, I just won't carry flood insurance.
It doesn't work.
Amanda, do you have any other information you want to add, or?
No, I mean, in this sense, Daryl's the floodplain administrator, where he's well more versed with flood and does what FEMA department doesn't. My only thing was kind of how Appendix A was written, how it said that the ZAP was the recommending board for anybody who wanted to appeal the decision of the floodplain administrator. So, I mean, I know we have a bigger picture. I just kind of updated as like a potential correction to the appendix, just naming ZAB as a recommending body that would then give the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen to make that decision, kind of how it falls in line with regular appeals now, to where it ultimately comes right now. One applicant that we do have, her ZAB case is tabled. However, how it was written and how she went to ZAB is whatever decision ZAB made, it goes straight to circuit court and it kind of bypasses the board. So I'll pass this around. It's just a couple suggestions. Maybe we can put it on an agenda, and I'm definitely not an attorney, so you can just read that and see if that's any just suggestion for changes.
But that addresses
That
them being a
address.
recommending body and the
Yes.
decision comes, like all of our other committees.
Exactly. Yeah, just kind of fixing that little.
Did you get David a copy? You got a copy?
Yeah, I made like 10.
Okay.
Yeah. I emailed it to David.
Well,
And I also had someone that messaged in and received emails as well, that someone on Trout Street had built their home back in the 80s and had lived there since 2011. And not much has changed insofar as she noticed an erosion control. And she wants to remain there, but she's concerned, about what we're discussing. And she wasn't there and has gone through a lot recently, family-wise and health-wise. After the annexation, she's put everything into her home and is concerned about this, that the value may be decreased.
That's the other thing, I keep figuring out where that's coming from. I tried to talk to the tax assessor today, he was not available, because I'm like, where did that come from? I've never even heard of that.
When you say
The
that,
devalue of the home, because I had someone told me that the tax assessor told them that was appraised, that the city did that affected the value of the home, had to come back and reappraise it.
because it,
Like,
like the one that's in the floodway
Floodway,
legally,
yeah.
that if they said, put their home on the market and someone said, to them, hey, if you buy that, you're not gonna be able to rebuild possibly, you have to get a variance. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't buy it for that. I'd say, well, I don't wanna go with a maybe or a what if, I'll move on to something that's assured. So to me, it would be value because it would prohibit someone possibly from buying a home if you decide.
they had made it sound like the tax assessor told them that the value of we would have to devalue the house, and I'm like, I don't know where they got that, I've never heard of that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I was trying to talk to Nick today to verify try to get the accurate on that, but like I say, it wasn't available.
Jane, you got anything you want to add to?
No, not really, but we don't have a lot of people here, and I kind of would like to hear a little more from Mr. Noble about, because he did talk to the tax assessor, and I think that was what he was told.
That's not what a work session is, Shane,
However-
and we need to.
Mr. Noble told me that's what he was told, that the tax assessor said they would probably have to go out and reassess a bunch of these properties.
Well, let's, hang on a minute.
Well, I mean, that's something that I think in his packet, he spelled it out, so.
Well, bottom line, you've got two choices, try to reach out, get the map changed, or allow building in a floodway and follow the minimum regulations as per FEMA. Just rewrite that section of the ordinance on the option.
And that's the level where the county is? it would kind of be
That
that
would be the
same.
same standard that the county did.
And potentially our rating could change.
That's the flip of a coin that I have no answer to.
Potential.
Potential.
And then-
And I don't know at what point it would. It might be a year from now. It might be 2029 when they do recertification. I know any changes we make, we don't see it in this year, they'll go in next year. And then we just wait till February of 2027
Yeah.
to see if it has an effect at that point.
I mean, I'm real sympathetic with these people. I mean, with Julie, I mean, I understand. I mean, it's like, it's just a tough situation because it's like if we make the changes for them, potentially it could affect everybody in the city of Ocean Springs that has flood policies.
Do you
But
feel like these points, you said you looked at a lot of these already, though, like what Julie handed out? Or you
We-
think there could be more points to significant
It's very
amount?
possible. I mean, hey, I welcome her to come next year to help me. I'm going to 20, I won't be in 2029, so I'll let you do it.
You think there's a next possibility we
It's
could
gonna
find
be-
significant
yeah,
amount of
It could
points?
be looked at, but it won't be able to be resubmitted until 2029 or next 5-year visit. I guess what I'm
So
saying
we can't
is,
call
no,
someone
we
in
can't
to
call them and
reevaluate, it has
say,
to
hey,
be
come
at
on
that
down
time.
here,
Because
we
of the
want you to reevaluate it. No, it doesn't work that way.
Can we
Thank
go
you.
ahead and look into,
We can look
again,
into it.
if you could please send me an email or, distribute something to me that
Just
shows what we're
send me what
currently
you're looking
utilizing.
at. But I'm just saying that we went over it with a fine tooth comb to pull everything. I mean, it's basically anything you tell them you're gonna do, you got to do. Because every year you have to send in proof that you actually did it. And that's what we tried to do, is we tried to pull everything that was humanly possible for us to do.
Yeah, I'd like to
Get
see
points.
where we're at and see if maybe, that's something we could look into to see what else we could possibly capitalize on that could be a small per se that, or even improve further, just to kind of reevaluate, I think it's our due diligence for these
What-
people to do that.
what about the
I guess
idea?
what I'm saying is, with all due respect, I did everything I could do. I did 8 months of working to get to where we're at. I mean, if I could have found something else, trust me, I would have. I'm not saying I didn't miss anything, but
No, and
if,
not to imply that you did, I mean, I'm sure you looked through it, but the situation's changed with the annexation, so there are different things that apply, so I think it warrants re-looking at that, I mean, again, I'm sure.
yeah, next year, I mean, we're gonna actually try to, we've actually talked about some green space that's possible that was in the county that we've acquired. Hopefully, we can get points for that. That would be a tremendous help. Because they like that. They love the green space, because there'd be somebody can build on it, that's gonna be done with it. It remains natural, and that would be great if that happened.
So let's all read over what Amanda gave us before the next meeting, and let's move forward we've got to make these adjustments in the ordinance.
which one is that?
To do the ZAB,
Just this.
to make them a recommending body and not the final decision where it comes to the board as a recommendation. So let's move forward with that. And then also the floodway, let's contact Ezel, let's request a new floodway boundary reassessment, I guess we'd say. Y'all are fine with that, so we move forward with that. Another thing that was discussed up in Jackson this week is mitigation, and that's not for your flood insurance, but it's the mitigation for your regular homeowner's insurance. So if we could possibly address that, fortified roofs is what they were pushing.
Gold
We could-
standard.
Gold standard fortified roofs, if we could put that in place, we could maybe save people on their homeowner's insurance in that manner. So maybe we can even attempt helping
Can you expound on what,
make up, what's that?
can you expound on what, so,
So a lot of new construction's doing it already, but we just haven't adopted it where it's mandatory. Alabama and Louisiana is already doing it. They have a grant program where the state gives up to $2,500 a roof to make it a gold standard certified roof.
what sort, what qualifies as
That's strapping, thicker plywood. It's the new felt, what is it, Dale, the heavy.
It's basically what we're already doing now. It's just that you actually have to hire an engineer to come in. He actually designs it, and you pay that, and then you have to pay for a special inspection to come in. It's extra expense on whomever And I was gonna find out if it was even that we could make it mandatory.
That's what they want us to
And
do.
I have a meeting, they want it mandatory in the ordinance that every roof has to be.
We can adopt bits and pieces of it. From what I understand, you don't have to take the whole building code, you know, the updated code. You can actually just adopt that section of it, the fortified roofs.
Is this just on new construction, or is this on
Any-
re-roofing a house?
Any re-roof, yeah, any re-roof.
New construction re-roof. But with that said, that's what and we'll talk about it more, because I actually have a meeting next week with some building officials that's one of the discussions I'm gonna have. Get on board and see how they're doing it, or if they're doing it, and how it will about it.
Well, right now, it's not funded. The state hasn't dedicated the funds to fund the grant program. So that's one of the battles they're trying to get through the legislature now, so.
Because I know for you to get that certificate, you have to be one of their inspectors that actually inspects the house. In other words, my guys don't do the certificate.
Well, y'all can get certified though, from what I understand.
Certified.
And it's not a hard process from what I hear.
So the inspection of them would be free to the person?
Well, I think there's an extra fee for the engineers. They would have to pay for all of that. But anyway, that's just something I thought that we could look into to maybe offset if something was to happen with the flood program.
These insurance companies want a certificate and basically say that you've done everything to the gold standard. So that's why you have to have an engineer stamp off on it.
So,
But it would only be for persons that hold insurance? So if someone paid off their house and
You would have
didn't
to
want
make
to?
it, you would have to make it everybody, whether they,
But you can have it done and give it a certificate to your insurance company, you probably already get a discount, right?
What about somebody that doesn't even cover wind on their house?
if you make it a requirement, regardless, it'd be back to flood deal, it would become an ordinance or a building code, and they would have to do it whether they insured or not insured.
What if, well, this is just all hypothetical, but what if there's a partial re-roof, a total re-roof, and a new build? I mean, what are you looking at?
You could, if you want to word it as a new build only.
I'm sorry for getting off on that, but this wasn't part of the work session. But I just wanted to throw that in there, something we can mitigate the cost. But that is something that I think we should look moving forward. But are y'all good with, let's move forward with the changes Amanda has put in here? We'll all read over it and maybe move forward with that at the next meeting, along with trying to send a request for the floodway reassessment, boundary line reassessment. And then,
Do you have any idea of, I mean, you may not even know this, but a timeline how long does it take them to get out here? Are there local people that do that, or?
I don't have a clue,
Yeah.
we gotta find all that out. Apparently it's not easy, or Ezel would already have it done, because apparently he's the one that was requesting it already. So, but I think if we make the call and ask for our area, hopefully we could get it. That'll help push it along. But I think we're all here trying to do the right thing, but there's a lot to worry about when you've got all flood policy holders will be affected by whatever we do. And the unknown is what worries you. You know, we could make this and it might vary, just minutely change policies. Or we could make it and it could be a 10% increase. So the more research we do, the more we find out, the better shape we'll be in to make the best move we can make. Julie, I know the situation you're in. I mean, Matt represents them also, I represent them, and I want to help them any way possible. But I think this reassessment of the boundary is our best step at this moment.
I will say that I actually had mentioned that to the property owners, and you may want to speak with them again. They could actually move probably faster if they do like a letter of map amendment to where they can request it for just that one specific property. Because I actually done one for my daughter, and it didn't take I think it was like 60 days for them to come out and realize that you submit the forms, they can fill it out, submit it to FEMA, see what all's required to send with it, maybe an elevation certificate or whatever. Basically, you're just questioning if they made a mistake on that piece of property based off the height of the ground.
Letter of map
They got
amendment.
letter of map amendment. Because the ground there actually is higher than any other grounds basically in that area. So what they could probably do is say, hey, you messed up, you should have took that line, moved it back. That may help them. And that usually moves, like I say, a little faster. I don't know how fast it'll move now with the funding cuts, but when I did it, it took, I think, 60 days.
And the surrounding properties could do the same for that whole general area, right?
If they met the qualifications. Now, with them being lower, they may not meet the same qualifications. That's where you hopefully get them to come back down and remap it. This was just a way for that one property to move
Be quicker.
faster, because you're only looking at one property versus all of them, all 40, whatever's in, however many you got, you know.
Yeah, well, let's pursue that too. Let's pass that on.
Maybe if all 40 of them send a letter in, they'll say, hey, something needs to be done down there. Let's get down there and remap.
If that covers it all, that, I guess we can adjourn. That's it. Thank y'all. Julie, you're good with what we've covered?
Yes, I'll be looking forward to seeing, which we're really utilizing.
How did that shoot across so many people?
That's slippery.
Me picking it up, it just shot. Thank y'all. And I'm sorry for no public participation, but
No, that's what it's supposed to be.
if we do that, it'll bog it down and
That was always
it just
Yeah, one of them was actually.